Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. Today's card is a simple stamping card. I'm using this new set by Simon Says Stamp called Artsy Flower Parts. There's so many things you can do with this set. There are a million pieces to it. And then I'm using my Next Level We Are Memory Keepers woven embossing folder. I'm using this small pattern in the back there. So I'm going to start with my colors here. I have Blushing Bride, Pool Party, Rich Raspberry, and Smoky Slate. I usually choose 2 or 3 colors when I'm doing some simple stamping, and I throw in a neutral. In this case, I have Smoky Slate because my other 3 colors are fairly cool colors, so I wanted to keep with that theme. I'm going to stamp directly onto my card base, so I'm going to use my Stampin' Up! Thick Whisper White cardstock. I'm going to start with my first color, which is the Rich Raspberry, and this color is super, super dark. Too dark for my taste, so generally when I use it, I'll stamp off. So you can see how dark that first stamp was. So now I'm going to stamp it. Stampin' Off is really great with the Stampin' Up! Inks. You get a whole different color. So this is just a really light, nice kind of reddish purple. Next, I'm going to move on to Pool Party, which is kind of a bluish green color. And so I'm going to kind of put this in between. And notice I'm starting with my larger flower stamps because I like to make sure that I have enough room for those, and then I can always fill in with the smaller ones later. I pretty much have all of the Stampin' Up! Inks, and they're my go-to inks because they just stamp really well. The stamping off quality is great. It gives you a whole different color, which is really helpful when you have multi-step stamps and you're looking for coordinating colors. Okay, so now I'm just filling in the gaps here with this smaller stamp, and I've got 3 of each color as it turns out, so I was happy with the way that came out. Now there are these 4 little dots that kind of go over this particular flower with the stripes, and notice I also use mostly solid ones so that I could cover the area. I'm going to put that at the top, and then there's this 3-dot one here, and I was going to start filling in with my Smoky Slate, but then I decided that it was probably better to do the stems first. There are 4 different stems, and I don't think you need that many. I'm just going to grab one and just use this one. And I'm going to flip it back and forth so it looks like it's a different stem. This particular one kind of curves to the top a little bit on one side. So for the ones that look like they're a little bit curved, I'm going to flip over the one, flip it over so that I use the curved side. So here I am going all the way down here. Now notice I used Smoky Slate instead of green, so I didn't want to introduce another color. So that's why I used my neutral for the stems. And you can also, these are very flexible because they're so thin, is you can curve it on your block. So this one was kind of slanted a little bit, and I wanted to curve it a little bit more, so I just moved it on my acrylic block. And then I just moved it back to finish off these last 2 stems here. Next, I'm going to add some leaves. I'm going to pull just this one leaf here, the empty one. I'm trying not to put too many solid images with the gray because it is it's the neutral color, so I don't want it to be too prominent. But I'm flipping this one leaf over back and forth, and I'm putting one leaf on each of the stems because I don't want to overload it, except for one stem, that second one from the right. I actually put 2 on because I had a little gap there at the bottom. So that's all the leaves I'm going to do, and now I'm going to take that 3-dot stamp and fill in some of the gaps with the Smoky Slate. And this is just to kind of fill some white area, but then also provide some neutral color just to kind of make it look a little bit more interesting. And I'm kind of rotating it back and forth so it doesn't look like I have that same stamp that I just keep repeating. I felt like I wanted to put something inside that Rich Raspberry flower, so there wasn't one that really fit in there. So I took the one that had a bunch of dots in a group, and I just inked up the top 3 dots, and I'm going to do the middle one with the Pool Party, and that seemed to work. And then I did the other 2 with the Blushing Bride. And it was really easy to do because these stamps are clear, and they fit perfectly in that little circle. All right, I've got Smoky Slate cardstock, which matches my ink, and that's one of the great things about the Stampin' Up! Products is that they all color coordinate. And then I also have some Pool Party cardstock. Before I put cardstock into these types of folders, I like to spray them with water a little bit first, and this will help to prevent the cracking that occurs sometimes with these thick embossing folders. Luckily there are lines here, and it's important for this pattern that I do it straight across, so I just matched it up with the lines. Now for my sandwich, I find that my sandwich is a little bit different with each We Are Memory Keepers folder. For this one, I'm using the platform without any tab, so I guess tab 0. And then my acrylic plate with the crease of my folder going toward the machine first, and then my other acrylic plate on top. So when I run that through, you can see how beautiful these folders are. They give a really deep impression. And when you spray it with water, it really avoids the cracking, and so you get a nice, pretty finish. I'm pulling my sentiment from the Woodland Gift set by Mama Elephant. It's because it says thanks a bunch, and I have a bunch of flowers, so I thought that would be appropriate. And I'm going to white emboss this onto some smoky slate cardstock, and I'll trim that out. And now I'm going to place it on my cardstock. I'm going to kind of see where I need to trim it. I want a little bit on the edges, and I'm just going to eyeball it, but of course you could measure it if you wanted it to be perfect. And then I'm going to use my corner chomper at the 1/4 of an inch setting to round out those bottom corners. I'm not sure how much basket I want, but I know I want about 1/8 of an inch of the smoky slate. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere my basket to the cardstock here with some Tombow Mono Multi Glue. Tape runner doesn't really stick as well because of how textured it is, so I find that the Tombow glue works great. So I'm going to adhere it so that I have about 1/8 of an inch at the top, and then I'm going to put an acrylic block on here just to hold it in place while the glue dries a little bit. I just left it for maybe 3 minutes while I cleaned off my work surface, and then I just trimmed off the edges with a scissor. Next, I'll put some ATG tape runner on the back of my smoky slate and kind of position it however high I want, and then I can trim off the bottom with a scissor, and I just use the edge of the card as a guide to get a nice even cut. Now I'm going to put my sentiment on again because of the bumpiness using some Tombow Mono Multi Glue, and I'll just grab my tweezers so that I can kind of eyeball the center. And of course you can measure this if you want. I'm sure it's kind of surprising that I didn't measure this, but anyway, that is the end of the card. So something really simple and quick that you can put together, and it looks really pretty. I like this color combination. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.